Hey everyone, and welcome to We Should Talk About This, the show where we dive into unfiltered conversations about business, work, and life. I'm your host, Amy Seddon, and I'm here with my brilliant co-host, Nilofer Rao.
Hello. Hi, everyone. We started this podcast because honestly, these are the conversations we were already having late at night, over coffee, voice notes, and texts about everything from navigating careers to figuring out how to actually live a smarter, better life while realizing that the issues that we were all facing are the same across the world, whether you live in India, UAE, or the US.
Exactly. This is a space for real talk. No fluff, no pretending that we have it all figured out. Just two women working through the kinds of questions so many of us face. Should you go to business school? How do you get a raise? Is it ever a good idea to go into business with friends or family?
Or the big ones. How do you build generational wealth? Should you change your name after marriage? And what does success even look like when you're trying to carve your own path, not follow someone else's? So grab your coffee, your wine, your spreadsheet, whatever you need, and let's get into it. I was asked a lot of funny questions this week, and one of them was like, is INSEAD a school that rich kids go to for 1 year to party? Like literally someone asked me that who got an admit.
I don't get like that question. I get more, is it worth it? Should I financially invest in myself? That's like more, I feel like I don't get questions that are that upfront. I don't even know how you describe that.
I was speechless and I was like, yes and no. That was literally what I wrote. I was like, yes and no. Why would you say that? But also, to be fair, I think a lot of these business schools do have a party school reputation. And I think INSEAD in particular does because everyone's traveling over the weekend and whatever. Not get it.
Let's be honest. Like all of us, we go for the education, but we also go for the fun. I feel like Kevin always makes fun of me because he's like, you just paid to go to bars and drink. He says you made great connections, but your grades didn't matter. I don't know how it was at INSEAD, but for me, grades didn't matter. We all were in this environment where we're stressed and we're like, oh my God, we have to get the A. We just study more. And then also let's like stay out late and check out a new bar and like meet new people and have fun.
Yeah, I would say it's very similar. For me, the priority was to land a job, to make really good friends because I really missed out on that during Kellogg. I think you were the only amazing friend that I got out of that experience. And I wanted to focus more on that aspect of it. I think Kellogg taught me a lot. So I took a lot of learning going in from that aspect. And then the third thing was just to have a blast. And if I find a husband on the way, great. If I don't, that's even better. So that was my motivation to go to INSEAD. If you talk to Sabir, his motivation was, I want to find a job. I want to be in the dean's list. And I want to get a job that will help me pay off my student loan in, I don't know, 5 years.
Right. Everyone has different reason. The honest reason for me is that I was like unhappy with the company I was with. I didn't like my boss and I wanted to move. And I wanted to move closer to my family. All the other stuff are great perks, right? Getting the access to the industries, the learning environment, those are important. There's always the like non-professional answer, which is, yeah, I want to make friends and I want something new in my life.
Yes, very true. And I was just going to say, you made that whole, when you said you were not happy with your, I'm assuming, manager and your boss, and you decided to leave and go to an MBA. That same thing happened to me post-MBA 4 years later. So you just never know.
The
I was
boss,
so happy with my boss, but I hated my job. 4 years after MBA, hated my boss, but loved my job. So what do? Can't go for another MBA.
you had a bad, you had a not great boss experience. Everyone needs a bad boss experience in their lifetime. It's just a great learning, but it definitely makes or breaks the job. Like, I think it doesn't matter how much you pay me. If my boss is horrible, I can't stay. not worth it.
And that's the difference that I learned post INSEAD or post MBA. I think it just gives you so
Yeah.
much more confidence to say, I have XYZ stuff on my resume and I will not stand for it. So one is that, but second is also, I don't know how it is with like your cohort, but in my cohort, like almost 40% of the people have churned either because they were asked to leave or because their job was redundant or because of recession cuts and whatever not, or they just wanted to change careers. And what is surprising is so many of us have the same story, and everyone just post MBA gets that courage to say, you know what, I'm just going to go do something on my own, or I have a network that I can tap into who can help me find something else, which I think pre MBA is much harder to do, both because we don't have that confidence, and second, we don't have that network that we can rely on to help us pull out of that situation or even talk about it. But I think for me, the confidence came post INSEAD in a few years of obviously working at Amazon, whereas I have all the brands that I need on my resume and I will not stand for it and tata bye bye. Never see you again. And I'm out of here. But it took a long time.
Yeah, my interest in getting my MBA was to boost my confidence. It was really hard for me to talk about my worth to my employer. I always felt like, what are the things that I could say that can convince my boss that like I'm worth it? You need to invest in me. You should pay me more money. You should give me more projects. And going through the business school process, meeting different people, learning about their experiences at different paths. Like my program, we had people that were like 2 years into working, and we had people that were like 8 years into working. It really varied. And having that exposure helped me gain more confidence. I do agree that it wasn't until maybe like a year or two after my MBA that I felt like I know that I'm capable. I know my worth and I can speak to it. And that gives me more confidence to leave my job and find something new. Before MBA or even in MBA, I think that it was always a hustle. Like I'm just trying to prove myself and how do I do it? And I almost would say I was too eager. Like I didn't take enough time to pause and be reflective and say, there are so many opportunities out there. You don't have to take the first thing that comes to you.
Yeah. It's so surprising how similar our thought processes are. It just makes me wonder if we're basically the same people.
So we're
I think
friends.
I know. And it just, I think the more and more we talk about stuff every single time, like all the things that we should talk about, it just reinforces my understanding and belief that this friendship was just meant to be. We're so similar. And I couldn't agree more with you. I think it's all of those things you said. And I think it's also partly because if we were ever to deep dive into why we both felt that way, because I felt the same way. I was like, oh, I will just take whatever comes first at me. I think a big part of it was just my experience particularly, and I don't know about you, in undergrad or at Kellogg. And I think that shaped my thought process around career job hunting so much that I was almost scared going into an MBA. And I think I overdid my research in terms of what are the career opportunities post MBA. Is INSEAD even a good fit from a career perspective? Because the reason for spending so much amount of money and time and effort was to get a job. And if I couldn't get a job, there was no point to this whole thing.
Yeah. So the big question I think we both always get is, should you go to business school? Is it worth it? Is it worth the financial risk? What do you think?
Yes. I think the short answer is yes. It's totally worth it. For me, INSEAD has been truly the best year of my life. And I'm going back to Fontainebleau in France for our 5-year reunion. And I think just because of that, and because we have so many friends here in Dubai, we're all traveling at the same time, we're all meeting up there. It just makes me reflect on my time at INSEAD a little bit more this year. And I realized that I basically got everything that I wanted out of my experience. I got my dream job at one of the FANGs. So got into Amazon because of INSEAD. I found an amazing group of friends. So it's no longer you, but there's like a few other people that I can then cry about to things who I reach out not just professionally. And I talk to them about a lot of these things that we just talked about, but also personally. And finally, I found my partner at INSEAD. I think that was the best thing that could have ever happened. Best return on investment, just finding a partner at INSEAD in addition to the job that I wanted. What about you? You're also approaching your 5-year mark of graduating during COVID. How does that feel looking back and reflecting on the past 5, 6 years?
I agree. I think arguably it was one of the best years of my life. I had so much fun. I wanted to learn and I was there to learn and gain new experiences, but I also was there to meet new people, enjoy their company, and learn how to navigate different industries, different corporate landscapes. And even now, like 5 years later, the network from business school has been so rewarding and so beneficial. When I first went to business school, I was like, oh, I want that like salary boost and I want that career shift. And then I realized there are long term benefits that are always serving you with your MBA. And I think if you can invest the time and you have the financial backing, I would say go to business school. It's great. You learn a lot.
That's exactly what my sentiments are. But I think we had surface level when we talk about our reasons for going to business school, they might sound different. And I'm curious to hear what led you to decide on going to business school?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I was looking for that career acceleration. And then I was really interested in expanding my technical skills. I just started to learn how to program. And I thought that business school would give me not just like the business component, it would also give me the technical skills to shift careers, shift industries. So when I initially started looking, I was looking at what's the coursework or the workshops or the clubs? Like, what kind of things can I learn from these different schools? And then, of course, I was looking to move. And I feel like that applying to business school is like a great opportunity to say, hey, I want to get out of the city I'm in. Let me explore what's out there. I know for you, Nilofer, you were also in London looking to maybe move, change countries. So, what led you to think about applying to business school?
Very similar answer. I think maybe the depth of it is different. So for me, I was in human capital consulting and I realized I did not like my industry or my function as a consultant. And so I really wanted to move to tech. However, as is the case with most of us migrant workers, it's really hard to move and get those sponsorships. And so in the UK, when I was approaching quite some alums that I knew from the Kellogg Times or from my undergrad in terms of like, I want to apply to your company, whether that's Fangs or whether that's American Express and so many of them. And a lot of the common answer that I would hear back would be like, A, you don't have the technical expertise that we are looking for, or you don't have that experience in that particular industry that you are aiming for. And the second thing was we only hire MBAs and we sponsor them in case they don't have that experience. So the only way you can get into these companies without experience is basically once you get your MBA and then they will sponsor you. But before that, they will just not even look at you or sponsor you. So for me, making that industry and functional shift was just so important. And I realized that the only way to get sponsorship to do that in the UK would be to go get my MBA. And the second reason is very similar to what you mentioned, which is the career growth and obviously the financial growth that we all aim for all of our life. And so it was the accelerated career growth that I really wanted. And I realized after talking to a lot of people, for example, if I were to put it in very layman terms, I would basically start as, let's say, someone who would be an entry level at Amazon pre MBA. And I would have to, it would take me 5 years to get to a post MBA level. Whereas I could just invest into that 1 year of MBA and I could join as that L6. And I basically skipped that 5 years of work that I had to do by going to an MBA and getting that credibility.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to bring up that a lot of people go to business school to like fast track their career trajectory. I also think like you bringing up Amazon to get from one level to the next level, you have to have your MBA. I know that's also true with my friends that come from consulting or banking backgrounds. A lot of companies will push individuals to go back to business school or to go to business school so that they can get promoted to a certain level. There's just a ton of different reasons why people go to business school. And I think like everyone has to figure out what works for them.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of upskilling that happens at business school. Like, for example, you yourself mentioned some of the technical expertise that you were looking for. I also know a lot of people who wanted to go and build a bigger network of people that can then support you when you want to move professionally. Was that something that propelled you towards business school as well, and NYU Stern in particular, and access to a wider alumni network in the sector or industry that you were targeting?
I think initially I didn't consider that component, the like social network and the alumni network. It wasn't until after I was researching programs and understanding where do people end up after business school that I realized building this huge network or community is invaluable in your lifetime. We both mentioned that we create these long lasting friendships where you can reach out to people and ask them for advice, both personally and professionally, that are like really close to you. I also feel like I could reach out to anyone in my program that I don't talk to. It's been 5 years. There's plenty of people in my program that I don't talk to. I think if I reached out to them today, they would be happy to hop on a call with me and give me advice or be like, hey, I know someone who works at this company. Let me connect you. It's really rare to find that, but I love that I was able to expand my social network and that has helped, I think, both me and you today when we're thinking about career shifts and trying to understand different markets. Then we can reach out to people and ask them for advice or have them connect us to people so that we can learn something new.
Yeah, I back that 100%. And that was actually one of the ways that I did my research for MBA or business schools as well. Because for me, one of the things that I realized when I moved to the UK was that while I had a great master's degree from Kellogg, there were not enough alumni in the UK to help me propel my career. And that's when I realized that it's so important. Like the alumni network and the geography that you want to target professionally is just so, so important. And I didn't realize that until I went to the UK and I spoke to a lot of people and I looked around and I was like, what is a school in Seattle? Why is everyone or most people that I knew at these big firms, they were in Seattle's or from LBS for that matter, or other European business schools. There's so many of them. And so once I knew that I wanted to do the 1 year program, a lot of what I did was tap into that alumni network of these schools, just validate my research and just also know if this is the school that I want to go to. So I invested a lot of time reaching out to alumni on LinkedIn. I looked up alums from school whose career trajectory I really liked because I was very focused on the big tech firms and I knew I wanted to either go into strategy and operations or I wanted to go into marketing. That was one way that I did my research. And I think it was an eye opening experience because you automatically build such a big network before even going to that business school. And the second one was just attending all of these events that these schools organize. So the two big ones that I remember is like a career fair that was organized, or sorry, a school fair that was organized. And a bunch of these schools were there. So you could just like go around, walk and talk to these admissions officers. But the one that really stood out for me was like these coffee chats and interactive events that the schools organize. And so INSEAD organized a speed dating event. It sounds so bad when I say it like that, but it was like not people dating, but
It's
just literally,
so classic business school, right? Like speed dating, but for a professional purpose.
Yeah, we just want to, just like talk to people, figure out if you like them, ask them questions, and apply. And so it was literally just that. And it was such an amazing event. And I think that was when we talk about like why I chose INSEAD, I think that event, along with a few other interactions I had with alums, was a big reason why I chose INSEAD over Columbia or ISB, which is the Indian School of Business in India.
It's so interesting. Like, I think because you've lived in different countries, you've had to work really hard, or you have this awareness that you can't just settle within that country. You really have to like network and understand the environment and connect to the right people to help you. And so I feel like you were almost doing what a business school person does when they're at the school and they're teaching you like how to network and how to reach out and how to pivot careers and find the right job for you. Like, you were doing that before business school. And I wish I had that skill set, but I didn't. I was more like, I want to find the school that will expand my knowledge and would be the right fit for me. And so I did more research and I narrowed down the schools that I was interested in. And I was looking at what were the classes that they're offering? What are the workshops that they have? What are the clubs that you can join? And then, of course, like, where do people end up after business school? Those were really big things that I wanted to understand. And then I applied to those schools. And afterwards, I started talking to people that were at the school to understand what is the environment like and do I want to go? And then ultimately that led me to picking NYU. But yeah, I'm curious. You were saying that you went to one of these coffee chats or speed dating things, and someone must have convinced you to go to INSEAD. What was the thing that convinced you?
I wish there was one. There were so many things that I absolutely loved about NCAT from day one. I think something that you mentioned for me, up until 3 years ago, I did not know where I wanted to settle. In my early 20s, I wanted to live in the US for long term. In my mid 20s, I wanted to live in the UK. In my late 20s, I am not sure what I wanted to do in my life. And now in my
You
early
just
30s,
you want to be in every country.
yes, and I think like I have to give it to Sabir to say I love Dubai. I don't want to move because I feel had it not been for him, we would have been packing our bags and moving somewhere else. So for me, that international aspect was really important. And I realized after Kellogg that I wanted to go to a school which would have that international aspect in every single thing, whether that was the fact that it gave me access to Europe, Southeast Asia, and Middle East, just because of how the program is constructed and the fact that we have campuses in all three of these geographies. It was closer to the UK, which is where I wanted to go back eventually. Obviously, the diversity of the cohort. So, what I absolutely love about INSEAD is that no single nationality should make up more than 10% of the cohort, which is so fantastic. Like you meet so many different kinds of people. And that was like the eye-opening experience for me. And that is actually the main reason. The main reason for me was the people I like, but obviously like my speed dating event that I absolutely enjoyed. I thought that was so fun. And everyone after that, everyone that I met from my class, the alums that I met for coffee chats after I got the admit, the alums that I reached out to on LinkedIn after my admit. And I think the people really made it for me.
It's interesting that like you had that experience and that was very different than for me. When I looked at NYU Stern, I wasn't looking at this global network. I was more looking at the class environment and like what I was going to learn in the classroom and then the access to certain industries. So I was interested in technology. And I was also looking at like the startup entrepreneurship environment. I thought I was going to pivot into like health tech, and it seemed like NYU had that exposure. We were interested in business school for similar reasons, but I think we ended up choosing our schools for different benefits. And then obviously we got so much more out of the programs once we joined and learned what it was all about.
Yeah. And you're right. I think finding that fit makes all the difference.
We can talk on and on about our experiences at business school. I'm sure that other people might be interested in our application process, and we can talk about that next week.
Yes. So, on that note, we hope you enjoyed today's conversation about our MBA journeys. If you're thinking about applying to business school and want to understand the application process, you want to enter the next episode, like Amy said.